My name is Isla Harrison, 28 years old, the eldest daughter in our family. It was Christmas morning in our Boston home, snow falling gently outside the frosted windows. I stood in the corner watching my sister Natalie basking in our parents' admiration. I had abandoned my dream of becoming an artist years ago, to pursue accounting, all to please them. But even after all my sacrifices, that familiar knot of anxiety tightened in my stomach. Something felt different about this Christmas. Something final. Before I tell you what happened that Christmas morning that changed everything, let me know where you're watching from. If my story resonates with you, please subscribe to hear more about my journey to finding my worth. The Harrison family was what most people would call successful. My father Thomas was a prominent lawyer at one of Boston's top firms, known for his ruthless negotiation skills and impressive win record. My mother Diana worked as a respected cardiologist at Massachusetts General Hospital, often featured in medical journals for her research. My younger sister Natalie, 23, was following in our mother's footsteps, excelling in her third year of medical school at Harvard. And then there was me, Isla, working as an accountant at a mid-sized firm downtown. From the outside, we looked like the perfect family. The reality inside our home told a different story. For as long as I could remember, my parents had shown a clear preference for Natalie. It wasn't subtle or occasional. It was persistent, obvious, and painful. When we were children, Natalie was enrolled in private violin lessons with Boston Symphony Orchestra members. She took ballet classes at an exclusive academy downtown. Her schedule was packed with expensive extracurricular activities, all enthusiastically funded by our parents. Meanwhile, I was allowed to join the school choir because it was free, or the community art program that cost next to nothing. If I wanted anything beyond that, I had to babysit or mow lawns to earn the money myself. For Natalie's 10th birthday, my parents rented out an entire children's museum, hired professional decorators and caterers, and invited 60 of her friends for an elaborate celebration that was even featured in a local lifestyle magazine. When my 10th birthday came around 2 years earlier, my mother had forgotten entirely until the day of. My father hastily picked up a store-bought cake on his way home from work, and they gave me a gift card to a bookstore. I still remember sitting alone at our kitchen table. No friends invited, no decorations, making a wish on hastily lit candles while my parents checked their watches. "We have to get to Natalie's recital," my mother had said, blowing out my candles for me when I took too long. "You can open your card later." This pattern continued throughout our lives. My parents attended every one of Natalie's performances, competitions, and award ceremonies. They beamed with pride from the front row cameras, ready to document her every achievement. But when I had important moments, there was always a reason they couldn't make it. Work emergencies, professional obligations, or simply, "It's just an art show, Isla. It's not like you're winning a scientific award." Art had been my passion since I could hold a crayon. My elementary school teachers had noticed my talent early, encouraging my parents to nurture this gift. In my junior year of high school, I was offered a partial scholarship to Rhode Island School of Design, one of the top art schools in the country. I was ecstatic running home to share the news, a letter clutched in my trembling hands. "Absolutely not," my father had said without even looking at the scholarship offer. "Art is a hobby, not a career. You will study something practical that will actually support you." "But Dad, this is a prestigious school and they're offering me money because they think I have talent." I had pleaded. "Talent doesn't pay bills, Isla," my mother added. "Look at your sister, top of her class in pre-med. That's the kind of achievement that matters." I was forced to decline the scholarship and enroll in a business program instead, eventually specializing in accounting, because my father insisted it was stable and respectable. But I never stopped creating art. I would sketch during lunch breaks, paint on weekends, and eventually started selling digital designs online under a pseudonym to generate a small supplementary income that my parents never knew about. My relationship with Natalie was complicated. She was well aware of the preferential treatment she received, but she never stood up for me. Instead, she seemed to thrive on it, often flaunting her expensive gifts and opportunities in front of me. When she got a brand new car for her 16th birthday, she parked it right next to my secondhand bicycle that I had saved up for over 2 summers of working at the local grocery store. "Don't be jealous, Isla," she said, dangling her keys. "Maybe if you were more like me, they would buy you nice things too." Despite the hurt, I still tried to love my sister. I attended her graduation ceremonies. I helped her study for exams. I listened to her problems with friends and boyfriends. I wanted to believe that underneath the favoritism, we could still have a sisterly bond. But Natalie had grown accustomed to being the center of attention, and she rarely showed interest in my life or accomplishments. Throughout all of this, I never stopped trying to earn my parents' approval. I maintained a 4.0 GPA from elementary school through college. I worked multiple jobs to minimize the financial burden on them, though they never hesitated to pay Natalie's full tuition and living expenses. I secured an internship at a respected accounting firm during my junior year of college, which led to a full-time position after graduation. I was quickly promoted to senior accountant within 3 years, managing important client accounts and receiving commendations from my superiors. None of it seemed to matter. When I called home to share the news of my first promotion, my mother interrupted me mid-sentence. "That's nice, dear. Did you hear that Natalie got accepted into a special research program? Only 2 students in her class were selected. We're taking her out to celebrate tonight at Gavin's." Gavin's was the most expensive restaurant in Boston, a place they had never taken me even for special occasions. Year after year, achievement after achievement, the pattern remained the same. No matter what I accomplished, it was always overshadowed by Natalie's latest success. No matter how hard I worked, I remained invisible in my own family. But still, some stubborn part of me kept trying, kept hoping that someday they would see me too. That Christmas was going to be different. I had decided to make one final effort to earn my place in the family. 3 weeks before the holiday, I had been promoted to department manager at my firm, the youngest person ever to hold the position. I had worked overtime for months, taken on challenging clients that no one else wanted to handle, and implemented a new digital filing system that saved the company thousands of dollars. My boss had praised me as indispensable during the announcement of my promotion. Surely this would finally impress my parents. I saved a portion of my bonus and spent hours selecting thoughtful gifts for everyone. For my father, a rare first edition of his favorite legal text tracked down through a collector. For my mother, a custom-designed necklace featuring birthstones of each family member, arranged in a pattern that resembled a heartbeat to honor her profession. For Natalie, concert tickets to see her favorite cellist performing with the Boston Symphony Orchestra. I wrapped each present with meticulous care, imagining their surprised faces when they opened them. I also spent an entire Sunday baking Christmas cookies using my grandmother's recipe, the one that had been passed down through generations of Harrison women. My mother had taught it to both Natalie and me, but I was the only one who ever bothered to make them. The familiar scent of cinnamon and nutmeg filled my apartment as I carefully packed them in decorative tins, one for each family member, and extra for the neighbors. As I worked, I allowed myself to nurture a tiny flame of hope. Maybe this year would be different. Maybe my big promotion, thoughtful gifts, and effort would finally make them see me. It was a small, fragile hope, but I held on to it nonetheless. 2 days before Christmas, I received a call from my mother. "Isla, have you left yet?" she asked without even saying hello. "I'm leaving tomorrow morning, Mom," I replied. "I told you I couldn't get off work until then." "Well, I'm just calling to let you know that Natalie just finished her clinical rotation with the highest evaluation in her cohort. Her supervising physician said she has natural talent just like me." The pride in her voice was unmistakable. "That's great," I said, trying to sound enthusiastic. "I actually have some news too. I got promoted to department manager, the youngest in the company's history." There was a slight pause. "Oh, that's nice, dear. Listen, could you stop by the store on your way here? We need more decorations for the tree. I want everything to be perfect when Natalie arrives." "Mom, I got promoted to department manager. It's a really big deal." Yes, that's good. Now about those decorations. Silver and blue would be best to match our theme this year. And remember, we're having the Wilsons and the Blakes over for Christmas dinner. Dr. Blake is the chief of cardiology now, and his son might be a good match for Natalie. So wear something nice, will you? Not those artsy outfits you tend to choose. I clutched the phone tighter, swallowing the lump in my throat. "Sure, Mom, I'll pick up decorations." "Wonderful. See you tomorrow then." She hung up without asking anything else about my promotion or my life. I stood in my kitchen, surrounded by freshly baked cookies and carefully wrapped presents, feeling that familiar ache spreading through my chest. But I pushed it down as I had done countless times before. I finished packing my suitcase, making sure to include a nice outfit for dinner that would meet my mother's approval. The next morning, I cleaned my apartment thoroughly, knowing I wouldn't be back for several days. I loaded my car with the presents, cookies, and my luggage. The drive from my apartment to my parents' house normally took about 3 hours, but a snowstorm had started slowing traffic to a crawl. I spent nearly 5 hours on the road, anxiety building with each mile. When I finally arrived tired and stiff from the long drive, no one came out to help me with my bags. The lights were on in the house, Christmas music playing faintly from inside. I made 3 trips from my car to the front door, struggling through the snow with my suitcase, the box of presents, and the cookie tins. Mrs. Johnson, our elderly neighbor for over 20 years, saw me from her window and came over to help with the last bag. "Isla, dear, it's so good to see you," she said, giving me a warm hug. "You look wonderful. How's life in the city treating you?" "It's good, Mrs. Johnson. I just got promoted, actually." "That's wonderful news. I always knew you would do great things." She beamed at me with genuine pride, the kind I had always wished to see on my parents' faces. "Thank you. That means a lot." I smiled back, feeling a brief moment of validation. Inside the house, I discovered that Natalie had arrived earlier that day, and my parents had already rearranged the bedrooms. My childhood room, which I had expected to stay in, had been converted into additional storage space. Natalie was comfortably settled in her old room, which had recently been redecorated with new furniture and bedding. "You can sleep on the pull-out couch in the living room," my mother informed me when I asked where to put my things. "Natalie needs her space to rest properly. Medical school is very demanding, you know." I nodded silently and brought my suitcase to the living room, where I would have no privacy for the entire visit. The Christmas tree stood in the corner, already surrounded by numerous presents. I noticed immediately that most of them were labeled for Natalie, with only a few small packages bearing my name. Dinner that night was all of Natalie's favorite foods: lamb with mint jelly, roasted Brussels sprouts with bacon, and sweet potato souffle. My mother had invited the Wilsons and Blakes, as mentioned, along with several other colleagues from the hospital. Throughout the meal, the conversation revolved around medical advancements, Natalie's impressive academic record, and her promising future. I tried several times to mention my promotion, but each attempt was quickly overshadowed. "I recently became department manager at my firm," I said during a brief lull in conversation. "That's nice," my father replied quickly. "Did everyone hear about Natalie's research project? She's studying cardiac regeneration in pediatric patients." The guests turned their attention to Natalie, who launched into a detailed explanation of her work, complete with medical terminology that impressed everyone at the table. I picked at my food silently, feeling increasingly invisible. After dinner, Natalie held court in the living room, entertaining everyone with stories about medical school. She had recently started dating the son of a prominent medical professor, a fact that delighted my parents. They sat beside her, nodding and smiling proudly at each word she spoke. I cleared the table alone, rinsed the dishes, loaded the dishwasher, and hand-washed the crystal glasses. By the time I finished, it was nearly midnight, and the guests had left. My family had gone to bed without saying goodnight, leaving me to make up the pull-out couch in the dim light of the Christmas tree. As I lay there staring at the twinkling lights, I wondered why I kept coming back year after year, hoping for something that never materialized. But the answer was simple: because they were family. Because some part of me still believed that blood meant something. Because I couldn't quite let go of the child inside who desperately wanted her parents' love. With these thoughts circling in my mind, I finally drifted off to sleep, the colorful glow of Christmas lights reflecting off the silent tears on my cheeks. Christmas morning dawned bright and cold. I woke early, a habit from years of being the first one up to prepare the house for the day's festivities. While my parents and Natalie slept in, I made fresh coffee, arranged the cookies I had brought on a decorative plate, and straightened up the living room. I folded my bedding neatly and tucked it away, trying to erase evidence of my makeshift sleeping arrangements. I rearranged some ornaments on the tree, making it look even more festive. I placed my carefully wrapped gifts among the others, hoping they would be appreciated. The house was peacefully quiet, sunlight streaming through the windows and reflecting off the fresh snow outside. For a brief moment, I felt a sense of belonging, of being an essential part of this holiday tradition. Around 9 o'clock, I heard movement upstairs. My mother appeared first, dressed in a festive red sweater and perfectly pressed slacks, her hair and makeup already done. "Did you make coffee good? Your father is helping Natalie bring her things down." A few minutes later, my father descended the stairs with Natalie on his arm, guiding her as if she were royalty. She was wearing silk pajamas that looked brand new, her hair pulled back in a perfect ponytail despite having just woken up. My father led her to the most comfortable armchair in the living room. "Here you go, princess, the perfect spot to open presents." My mother clapped her hands together excitedly. "Let's get started. I can't wait for you all to see what we got this year." It was a tradition in our family to take turns opening gifts. My mother always insisted that everyone watch each person open their presents so that the appropriate gratitude could be expressed. She always orchestrated the order, and unsurprisingly, she chose Natalie to go first. "This special one is for our brilliant doctor in training," my father announced, handing Natalie an elegantly wrapped package with an elaborate bow. The envelope was thick, decorated with gold ribbon and silver snowflakes. Natalie made a show of carefully removing the wrapping paper, folding it neatly beside her instead of tearing into it. Inside was a leather portfolio embossed with her initials. She opened it to reveal a thick packet of documents, a credit card, and what looked like airline tickets. Her eyes widened. "What is this?" My mother could barely contain her excitement. "A 3-week tour of Europe, first-class flights to London, Paris, Rome, Vienna, and Barcelona. We've arranged private tours of the best medical facilities in each city, plus luxury accommodations and a shopping allowance." She pointed to the credit card. "That has a $20,000 limit, darling. We want you to enjoy every moment and bring back whatever catches your eye." Natalie squealed with delight and jumped up to hug our parents. My mother embraced her tightly, her face glowing with pride. "You are the pride of our family," she declared, kissing Natalie's cheek. "This is just a small token of how much we value your hard work and dedication." My father nodded solemnly. "You deserve every bit of it, Natalie. Your achievements in medical school have exceeded even our highest expectations. This trip will be educational as well as enjoyable. The connections you make at these European hospitals could be invaluable for your future career." Natalie clutched the portfolio to her chest, beaming. "This is the best gift ever. I can't believe you did this for me." I sat quietly on the edge of the sofa watching the scene unfold. I had known there would be disparity in our gifts. There always was, but the extravagance of Natalie's present made my stomach clench with anticipation of what was coming next. "Your turn now, Isla," my father said, handing me a package. Unlike Natalie's gift, mine was not wrapped. It was an old cardboard box slightly crushed on one side with no ribbon, no decoration, not even a gift tag. It looked like something pulled from the recycling bin at the last minute. I took it hesitantly, feeling all eyes on me. I opened the box and stared at its contents, unable to comprehend what I was seeing at first. Inside was a collection of old used cleaning supplies, a frayed broom with bent bristles, a mop head that had seen better days, a half-empty bottle of generic window cleaner, a pack of bargain brand sponges, and at the bottom a plastic name tag with the word housekeeper crudely etched on its surface. I looked up confused, hoping this was some kind of mistaken joke that my real gift was hidden somewhere else. But my father was smiling broadly, clearly amused by his own cleverness. "This is enough for you," he said with a chuckle, "since you seem to enjoy playing maid around here so much." Natalie giggled behind her hand, and my mother smiled indulgently at my father's joke. "Thomas, really," she said, but there was no reproach in her tone, only fond exasperation. I stared at the cleaning supplies, feeling as if all the air had been sucked from my lungs. This wasn't just a thoughtless gift. This was deliberate. This was what they truly thought of me, of my place in this family. Not a daughter to be cherished and supported. Not a professional to be respected. But a housekeeper. Someone whose value lay solely in the services provided to others. In that moment, something broke inside me. A dam that had been holding back years of hurt, disappointment, and anger suddenly crumbled. But outwardly, I remained still, my face carefully blank, as I had trained it to be through countless similar moments. "Thank you," I said mechanically, placing the box on the floor beside me. Very thoughtful. My mother glanced at me, perhaps noting the flatness in my voice, but quickly turned her attention back to Natalie. "Let's see what else we have for our star student." The rest of the gift opening proceeded in a blur. Natalie received several more expensive presents, designer clothes, jewelry, the latest smartphone, luxury skincare products. I received a generic bath set that still had the clearance sticker visible on the bottom, and a gift card to a coffee shop with a balance so small it would barely cover 2 drinks. Throughout it all, I sat in silence, nodding and thanking them automatically. But inside, my thoughts were racing. I was 28 years old. I had a successful career, my own apartment, financial independence. Why was I still here, subjecting myself to this treatment? Why did I keep coming back, hoping for something that would never materialize? The Johnsons from next door stopped by briefly to drop off Christmas cookies. Mrs. Johnson hugged me warmly and asked about my promotion. When I mentioned it, she reacted with genuine enthusiasm, asking questions about my responsibilities and congratulating me sincerely. The stark contrast between her response and my family's indifference was painful. After they left, my mother turned to me. "Isla, why don't you start preparing Christmas lunch? The turkey needs to go in soon if we want to eat by 2." It wasn't a request, but an expectation. As always, I was assigned the role of serving others, while Natalie continued to open gifts and receive adoration. My father and Natalie moved to the den to discuss her upcoming European adventure in more detail, leaving me alone with the box of cleaning supplies and an unspoken directive to fulfill my proper role. But instead of heading to the kitchen, I remained seated staring at the Christmas tree. The beautiful ornaments I had straightened that morning now seemed to mock me with their perfect arrangement. The carefully wrapped gifts I had brought remained unopened, forgotten beneath piles of Natalie's discarded wrapping paper. In that moment, I knew with absolute clarity that nothing would ever change. No achievement of mine would ever be significant enough. No effort would ever earn me an equal place in this family. And for the first time, instead of feeling sad about this realization, I felt angry. And beneath the anger, something else stirred. Something that felt remarkably like freedom. I sat there for several long minutes watching my family celebrate in the den. Without me, the box of cleaning supplies at my feet, a stark reminder of my position in the Harrison household. The anger that had flared inside me wasn't fading. Instead, it was crystallizing into something more powerful. Resolve. Without announcing my intentions, I quietly made my way upstairs to the storage room that had once been my bedroom. I found my suitcase where I had left it unopened since my arrival. I began to pack methodically, folding each item neatly as thoughts tumbled through my mind. For 28 years, I had been trying to earn the love that should have been freely given. I had sacrificed my dreams, altered my personality, achieved success in a field I never wanted to enter, all in the desperate hope of hearing the words my sister heard so easily. "You are the pride of our family." But the cleaning supplies told the truth my heart had been avoiding. I wasn't valued as a daughter. I was tolerated as a housekeeper. And even in that role, I was mocked rather than appreciated. As I packed, memories flooded back. My 8th birthday, when my parents forgot to pick me up from school because they were attending Natalie's dance recital. My high school graduation, where they left immediately after the ceremony to take Natalie shopping for her summer camp supplies. My college scholarship award dinner, which they skipped entirely because Natalie had a cold. Pattern after pattern of neglect, dismissal, and favoritism. And through it all, I had made excuses for them. They're busy, they're stressed, they don't mean it, they love me in their own way. But the truth was simpler and more painful. They had never valued me the way they valued Natalie. And they never would. I texted my boss, who had become something of a mentor over the years. "Taking some personal time, back in the office after New Year's, something I need to figure out." Her reply came quickly. "Take all the time you need, you've earned it. Whatever you're going through, you've got this." 4 simple words that meant more than any praise my parents had ever given me. "You've earned it. You've got this." I left the wrapped presents I had brought for my family on the bed. They could open them or not. It no longer mattered to me. The only items I retrieved from downstairs were my grandmother's handwritten recipe book and a small watercolor I had painted in high school that had somehow survived in the back of a closet. Everything else I was prepared to leave behind. As I zipped my suitcase, I heard footsteps in the hallway. My mother appeared in the doorway, her expression changing from irritation to confusion when she saw my packed bag. "What are you doing?" "The turkey needs to go in the oven." "I'm leaving," I said simply. She stared at me as if I'd spoken in a foreign language. "What do you mean leaving? It's Christmas Day. We're having dinner in a few hours. The Blakes are coming over again." "I'm not staying. I'm going home." "Don't be ridiculous. This is your home." I shook my head slowly. "No, Mom, this hasn't been my home for a very long time." Her confusion morphed into anger. "Is this about the gift?" "It was just a joke, Isla. You're being overly sensitive as usual." It wasn't just a joke, it was a message, and I finally received it loud and clear. I picked up my suitcase and moved toward the door. My mother stepped in front of me, blocking my path. "You will not ruin Christmas with your dramatics. Put your things away and get downstairs. We have guests coming." "No," I said, the word feeling foreign yet empowering on my tongue. "I won't." The commotion attracted my father and Natalie. They appeared behind my mother, Natalie still clutching one of her many gifts. "What's going on?" my father demanded. "Isla is throwing a tantrum because she didn't like her present," my mother replied before I could speak. My father's face darkened. "For God's sake, Isla, grow up. It was a harmless joke." "Was it?" I asked quietly. "Because it seemed pretty clear to me." And don't worry, I am growing up. That's exactly what I'm doing right now. I stepped around my mother and continued toward the stairs. My father's voice followed me sharp with authority. Stop this nonsense immediately. Your mother told you to prepare lunch, and that's what you're going to do. I paused at the top of the stairs and turned to face them. They stood together, a united front against me as always. My mother indignant, my father authoritative. Natalie wide-eyed and uncertain. I'm not your housekeeper, I said, my voice steady despite the emotions roiling within me. I'm your daughter, or at least I was supposed to be. But you've never treated me like one. Never. That's absurd, my mother scoffed. We've given you everything. Have you? You gave Natalie private lessons, new cars, designer clothes, and now a luxury European tour. What have you given me besides criticism and chores? We paid for your college education, my father said stiffly. For an accounting degree I never wanted at a school you chose while living in the cheapest possible housing. Meanwhile, Natalie got a fully furnished apartment near campus and a monthly allowance larger than my first salary. Natalie is pursuing a medical career, my mother said defensively. That requires proper support. And what I wanted didn't matter at all, did it? My dreams, my talents, my happiness. None of it was important enough. Neither of them had a response to that. I continued down the stairs, my resolve strengthening with each step. Isla, stop, Natalie called out, speaking for the first time. You're overreacting. I paused again and looked up at her. Am I? Tell me honestly, Natalie. Do you think our parents have treated us equally? She hesitated, glancing at our parents nervously. Well, no, but what? But you deserve more, but it's okay because you're the special one, the pride of the family. Natalie flushed. That's not fair. No, I agreed. It's not fair. It never has been. I reached the bottom of the stairs and walked to the front door, pulling on my coat and boots. My parents hurried after me. If you walk out that door, don't bother coming back, my father threatened. I turned to look at them one last time. I won't. That's a promise. Outside, snow was falling again, large flakes drifting lazily from a pearl gray sky. The world was quiet, muffled by the fresh blanket of white. I placed my suitcase in the trunk of my car and brushed snow from the windshield. As I worked, I became aware of someone approaching. Mrs. Johnson stood nearby, concern etched on her kind face. Isla, is everything all right? Are you leaving? I nodded, not trusting myself to speak without crying. She moved closer and enveloped me in a warm hug. Oh, sweetheart, I've watched you try so hard for so many years. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is walk away. Her understanding broke through my composure. Tears spilled down my cheeks as I hugged her back. Thank you for seeing me, I whispered. For really seeing me. She pulled back and pressed a piece of paper into my hand. My phone number. I've gotten one of those smartphones now so you can call or text anytime. Promise me you'll stay in touch. I promise. From the porch, I could see my family watching through the window. My mother's face was flushed with anger. My father stood with arms crossed, and Natalie looked uncomfortable, but made no move to come outside. I got into my car, started the engine, and pulled away from the house without looking back. The snow continued to fall, covering my tire tracks almost as quickly as they were made, erasing any evidence of my departure. It felt symbolic somehow, like the universe itself was helping me make a clean break. As I drove away from my childhood home, for what I knew would be the last time I expected to feel devastated. Instead, beneath the hurt and anger, I felt something unexpected. Something that felt remarkably like the first breath after being underwater too long. Relief, freedom, possibility. I had no specific destination in mind. I just knew I needed to get away to find a space where I could think clearly without the weight of their expectations and disappointment pressing down on me. I drove for nearly an hour before stopping at a modest hotel just off the highway. It wasn't fancy, but it was clean and quiet. And most importantly, it was my choice. The young woman at the reception desk looked surprised to see a guest checking in on Christmas Day, but handled my reservation efficiently. Just one night, she asked. Actually, make it 3, I replied, surprising myself with the decision. I need some time to figure things out. In my room, I sat on the edge of the bed and took stock of my situation. I had my laptop phone, a week's worth of clothes, and my emergency savings. I had a good job waiting for me back in the city. I had a small circle of friends, mostly colleagues from work. It wasn't much, but it was a foundation, something I could build upon. I unpacked my sketchbook and pencils items I brought everywhere out of habit. Sitting by the window overlooking the snow-covered parking lot, I began to draw. Not anything specific at first, just lines and shapes that gradually formed into an image, a door standing open, light pouring through from the other side. As my pencil moved across the paper, I felt a sense of peace settling over me. For the first time in years, possibly ever, I wasn't trying to please anyone but myself. I wasn't drawing to impress my parents or to prove my worth. I was drawing because it was what I loved to do, because it was who I was meant to be. I finished the sketch and titled it December 25th, the day I finally walked through my own door into the light. Outside, snow continued to fall, covering the world in clean, untouched white. Tomorrow would bring decisions and plans, calls to make, and arrangements to settle. But tonight, in this anonymous hotel room on Christmas Day, I allowed myself to simply exist without expectations, to breathe freely, to begin the process of discovering who Isla Harrison really was, outside the shadow of her family's indifference. The next morning, I woke to sunlight streaming through the curtains, and the unfamiliar but liberating sensation of having no obligations to anyone but myself. No Christmas breakfast to prepare, no dishes to wash, no performances to watch with manufactured enthusiasm. Just me, my thoughts, and the beginnings of a plan for my new life. My phone showed 27 missed calls and 43 text messages. Most were from my mother, growing increasingly frantic. "Where are you? Come home immediately." "This behavior is unacceptable. The Blakes are arriving in an hour." "Thomas had to cook the turkey himself. It's completely dried out." "Isla Marie Harrison, answer your phone this instant. This is so typical of you, always making everything about yourself." And finally, around midnight, "Are you safe, at least? Let us know you're not dead in a ditch somewhere." My father's messages were fewer but more threatening. "This childish display ends now. Return home. You're embarrassing the family in front of our guests. Your mother is upset. Fix this. Don't expect any financial help if this is how you behave." Natalie's text showed a different progression. "OMG, stop being so dramatic and come back. Mom and Dad are super pissed. Dad had to cook. Seriously, you're ruining Christmas." Then later, "Okay, but are you safe somewhere? For real?" And finally, "Things are really weird here without you. I didn't realize how much you actually do around here." I sent one group text to all three of them. "I am safe. I will not be returning. Please respect my decision." Then I silenced my phone and got ready for the day. I had 3 days before I needed to return to work, 3 days to figure out my next steps. I couldn't go back to my apartment yet. It was too close to my parents' sphere of influence. They had a key for emergencies, which they had used in the past to let themselves in unannounced. I needed a clean break, a fresh start. I opened my laptop and began searching for short-term rentals in the city. After an hour of searching, I found a small studio apartment available for immediate move-in. It was in an older building downtown close to my office and within my budget. The landlord, Mr. Jackson, answered my call despite it being the day after Christmas. "Normally I'd need more notice, but the previous tenant left suddenly, and I'm eager to fill it," he explained. "If you can sign the lease today and provide the deposit, it's yours." "I'll be there in 3 hours," I promised. I packed my few belongings and checked out of the hotel. During the drive back to the city, I mentally cataloged what I would need for the new apartment. Basic furniture, kitchen essentials, bedding. It was overwhelming, but also exciting to be building my life from scratch, choosing things because I wanted them, not because they would please someone else. Wow. Jackson turned out to be a kind elderly gentleman who reminded me somewhat of Mrs. Johnson. He showed me around the studio, apologizing for its small size and dated fixtures. "It's perfect," I assured him, and I meant it. The space was clean, with large windows that let in plenty of light, and best of all, it was mine, alone. After signing the lease and receiving the keys, I visited a nearby discount store to purchase essential items: an air mattress, sheets, a pillow, a lamp, and basic kitchen supplies. It wasn't much, but it would do until I could properly furnish the place. That evening, I sat on my air mattress eating takeout and scrolling through job listings on my laptop. My current position was good, but it was also connected to my past life. A fresh start might mean a new career as well, something closer to my true interests. A posting for an administrative position at a local art gallery caught my eye. The salary was slightly less than what I currently earned, but the environment would be completely different. On impulse, I updated my resume and sent an application emphasizing my accounting skills, but also mentioning my background in art. To my surprise, I received a response within hours. The gallery director, a woman named Jordan, was interested in interviewing me the next day. "We're actually looking for someone with both business and artistic knowledge," she wrote. "Your resume stood out immediately." The interview went better than I could have hoped. Jordan was a dynamic woman in her 40s with a keen eye for talent and a straightforward manner. Our previous administrator was great with the books, but couldn't tell a Monet from a Manet, she explained. "We need someone who understands both the business and creative sides of the gallery." I was offered the position on the spot administrative director with additional responsibilities as an art consultant. The salary was actually comparable to my current job when the commission structure was factored in. "When can you start?" Jordan asked. "Is next Monday too soon?" She laughed. "Perfect. Welcome to Riverside Gallery." With employment secured, I called my current boss and explained the situation without going into personal details. She was disappointed to lose me, but understanding. "You've always had an artist's soul, Isla," she said. "I've seen your doodles during meetings. This seems like a better fit for you. But if it doesn't work out, there's always a place for you here." Throughout this whirlwind of activity, my phone continued to buzz with messages from my family. Their tone had shifted from anger to confusion to what sounded almost like panic. My mother, "Where are you? We've called all your friends. No one knows anything." My father, "Your mother is beside herself with worry. This has gone far enough." Natalie, "Seriously, sis, what's going on? Mom can't stop crying and dad is freaking out. They called your work, but your boss wouldn't tell them anything." I maintained my silence, not yet ready to engage. I had spent 28 years being available whenever they needed something. They could wait a few days while I established my boundaries. Mrs. Johnson was the only person from my old life that I contacted. I sent her a text, letting her know I was safe and had found an apartment and a new job. Her reply was warm and supportive. "I'm so proud of you, dear. Taking charge of your own life takes courage. I knew you had it in you." 5 days after leaving my parents' house, I was settled into my new apartment now, with a proper bed frame and mattress, preparing for my first day at the gallery, when my phone rang with my mother's number. I had been expecting this call, knowing they wouldn't give up easily. After a deep breath, I answered. "Hello? Isla, is that you? Where are you?" My mother's voice was frantic, almost unrecognizable. "I'm in the city. I'm fine." "We need you to come home now," she demanded, her relief quickly turning back to authority. "Why?" The question seemed to throw her. "What do you mean, why? Because you live here. Because we're your family." "I don't live there anymore. I have my own place now." "What? Where, when did this happen?" "It doesn't matter where. What matters is that I'm starting fresh on my own terms." There was a pause. Then my father's voice came on the line. They had me on speaker. "Isla, this has gone far enough. We need you to come home. The house is a disaster. Your mother doesn't know where anything is. We had to cancel the New Year's party because there's no way to get everything ready in time." I almost laughed at the absurdity of it. They weren't worried about me. They were worried about their clean house and social obligations. "I'm not coming back," I said firmly. "Not now, not ever." "Is this still about that stupid Christmas gift?" my father demanded. "It was a joke, for God's sake." "No, Dad. It's about 28 years of being treated like I don't matter. The gift was just the final straw." "That's ridiculous. We've given you everything." "You've given Natalie everything. You've given me chores and criticism." There was a stunned silence on the other end. Then my mother's voice, smaller than I'd ever heard it. "We don't know how to do this without you." The admission was telling. Not, "We miss you" or "We love you," but, "We don't know how to function without your services." It confirmed everything I had come to understand. "You'll figure it out," I said. "Goodbye." I hung up my hand, trembling, but my resolve firm. For the first time in my life, I had put myself first. It felt uncomfortable, even wrong in some ways, but also necessary. Like lancing a wound to let the infection drain before healing could begin. My phone rang again immediately. This time it was Natalie. "What the hell, Isla?" she demanded when I answered. "You can't just disappear and then drop a bomb like that." "I didn't disappear. I left. There's a difference." "Well, whatever. Mom's a mess and Dad's furious. They've been calling everyone we know trying to find you." "And yet it took them 5 days to actually call me directly," I pointed out. Natalie was silent for a moment. "Yeah, I noticed that too, actually. It was weird. They kept saying you'd come back on your own when you calmed down." "I'm not coming back, Natalie. Because of a dumb cleaning supplies gift. Come on." "Do you really think that's what this is about?" Another pause. "I guess not. It's been building for a while, hasn't it?" All my life, I confirmed. I knew they treated us differently, she admitted quietly. I just never said anything because, well, it benefited me, I guess. That's pretty selfish, isn't it? Yes, I said simply. It was. I'm sorry, Isla. Really, I should have stood up for you. Her apology surprised me. It was possibly the most genuine interaction we'd had in years. Thank you for saying that. So what now? Are you really never coming back home? That place was never my home, Natalie. It was just a house where I provided services. She didn't argue the point, which told me more than any words could have. Can I visit you sometime, see your new place? I considered the request. Maybe, eventually, but I need some space right now to figure things out. Okay, she said softly. I understand, but please stay in touch. Okay, just with me, if not with Mom and Dad. We'll see, I said, not ready to make any promises. I have to go now. Good luck in Europe. After hanging up, I stood at my window looking out at the city below. People hurried along the sidewalks, each with their own story, their own struggles and triumphs. For the first time, I felt like one of them. Not an extension of the Harrison family, not the invisible daughter, not the reliable housekeeper. Just Isla, a woman with her own path to follow, her own life to create. The thought was both terrifying and exhilarating, but mostly it felt right. The weeks that followed were a blend of challenges and discoveries. My new job at the Riverside Gallery quickly became much more than just employment. It became a gateway to a world I had always admired from afar. Jordan, the director who had hired me, took me under her wing and introduced me to local artist collectors and other gallery owners. My background in accounting proved invaluable for managing the business side, while my artistic eye helped in arranging exhibits and advising clients on purchases. You're like finding a unicorn, Jordan told me after I successfully negotiated a complicated sale with a notoriously difficult collector. Someone who speaks both languages, numbers, and art. I'm not letting you go ever. For the first time in my professional life, I felt truly valued for all aspects of my abilities, not just the ones that served others' needs. Jordan respected my creative opinions and encouraged me to pursue my own artistic endeavors alongside my administrative duties. We have an empty wall in the small exhibition room, she mentioned casually one afternoon. Maybe you could fill it with something of yours. The suggestion terrified and thrilled me. I hadn't shown my work publicly since high school. But with Jordan's encouragement, I selected 3 of my recent pieces, had them professionally framed, and hung them in the space. To my amazement, one sold within a week to a regular client who had no idea I was the artist until after he'd made the purchase. This is exceptional work, he told me when he found out. You have a unique perspective, raw but sophisticated. You should do more. His words, combined with the tangible validation of someone willingly paying for my art, unlocked something inside me. I began setting aside time each evening to paint, turning a corner of my small studio apartment into a makeshift art space. I started an Instagram account dedicated to my artwork, separate from my personal account, and slowly began building a following. The physical distance from my family allowed emotional distance as well. I began to see patterns in our relationships that had been invisible to me when I was immersed in them daily. I started journaling, writing down memories and reflecting on them from my new perspective. The process was painful but cathartic, like cleaning an infected wound. One evening, I attended a community art class on a whim. The instructor, Daniel, was a professional artist with a gentle teaching style that made everyone feel comfortable regardless of their skill level. He noticed my technique immediately. "You've had training," he observed, watching me sketch. "Self-taught mostly," I replied. "I wanted to go to art school, but it wasn't an option." "It's never too late," he said with a warm smile. "You have genuine talent." Daniel became a mentor and eventually a close friend. He invited me to join a small group of local artists who met weekly to paint together and critique each other's work. Through this group, I found a community that appreciated and nurtured the part of me that had been dismissed for so long. Throughout this period of growth, my relationship with my family remained complicated. My parents cycled through various strategies to try to bring me back into the fold. First came anger, and demands, then guilt, and emotional manipulation followed by bribery attempts, and finally grudging acceptance that I was serious about my independence. My mother called regularly, though our conversations remained strained. What struck me most was how often she called to ask how to do things around the house that I had always handled. How to work the washing machine, where the circuit breaker was located, how to make grocery lists and meal plans. I never realized how much you did, she admitted during one call, a note of genuine surprise in her voice. We're having to hire a weekly cleaning service, and even then it's not the same. My father's approach was more practical. He called with tax questions, insurance inquiries, and other administrative matters I had managed for the family. His calls were less frequent, but revealed a similar revelation about my contributions. Natalie returned from her European tour with expensive gifts for everyone, including me. She asked for my new address and sent a beautiful leather-bound sketchbook with a note. I saw this in a little shop in Florence and immediately thought of you. I remember how you used to draw all the time when we were kids. I'm sorry I never told you how good you were. It was perhaps the most thoughtful gift she had ever given me, acknowledging a part of my identity that our parents had dismissed. I texted her a thank you, and we began a cautious text relationship, sharing small details about our daily lives, without delving too deeply into family dynamics. About 2 months after my departure, my parents requested a meeting. After some consideration, I agreed to meet them at a neutral location, a cafe near my gallery. I arrived early, choosing a table near the window, where I could watch for their arrival. When they entered, I was struck by how different they looked. My mother seemed smaller somehow, less polished than usual. My father's confident stride was diminished, his shoulders slightly hunched. They had aged in the short time since I'd left, or perhaps I was just seeing them clearly for the first time. Isla, my mother said, reaching for my hand across the table. I allowed the contact briefly before withdrawing. You look different. I knew what she meant. I had changed my hair, cutting the long locks they had always insisted made me look professional, into a shorter style that suited my preferences. I dressed differently now, too, embracing colors and patterns instead of the muted tones they had approved of. I am different, I acknowledged. Your apartment, is it safe? My father asked, looking around the cafe as if to assess the neighborhood. Perfectly safe and convenient for work. About that, my mother interjected. We heard you quit your accounting job after that promotion you worked so hard for. I found a position better suited to my interests and abilities, I explained. I'm the administrative director at Riverside Gallery now. I handle their finances and help curate exhibitions. My father frowned. That can't pay as well as your previous position. It pays just fine, and I'm also selling my artwork. My mother's eyebrows rose. People are buying your drawings, paintings mostly, and yes, they are. A uncomfortable silence fell. I could see them struggling to reconcile this new information with their perception of me. We've been thinking, my mother finally said, about what you said when you left, about how we treated you compared to Natalie. I waited, not offering any response to make this easier for them. We may have had certain expectations for each of you that weren't entirely fair, she continued carefully. We saw Natalie's interest in medicine as following in my footsteps, and that was important to me. And we saw your artistic interests as impractical, my father added. We wanted security for you. No, I said quietly but firmly. You wanted convenience for yourselves. My accounting skills meant free tax preparation and financial management for the family. My domestic abilities meant a clean house and prepared meals without having to pay for help. They flinched at my directness, but didn't deny it. We'd like you to come home, my mother said. We'll do better. We could increase your monthly allowance. I almost laughed out loud. I'm 28 years old, Mom. I don't need or want an allowance from you. I need respect, recognition of my worth as a person, not just for what I can do for you. Of course we respect you, my father protested, but his tone lacked conviction. You gave me used cleaning supplies for Christmas and called me your housekeeper. I reminded him. That's not respect. He had the grace to look ashamed. It was a thoughtless joke. I apologize. The apology, while welcome, felt too little too late. Thank you for saying that. But I'm not coming back. I have my own life now, one that makes me happy and fulfilled in ways I never was at home. But we're family, my mother insisted, a note of desperation in her voice. Yes, we are. And that doesn't change even if I live separately and maintain my independence. But being family doesn't mean I have to accept being treated as less valuable than Natalie. They exchanged glances, clearly not having expected such firm boundaries. What do you want from us, then? My father asked, shifting into negotiation mode as if this were a business transaction. I don't want anything from you right now, I replied honestly. I'm focused on building my own life, healing from the past, and discovering who I am outside of the roles you assigned me. If you want to be part of my life going forward, it will have to be on new terms with mutual respect and equality." The meeting ended shortly after, with no real resolution. They left looking confused and somewhat defeated, unused to encountering a version of me that couldn't be manipulated or controlled. I watched them walk away, feeling a complex mix of sadness for what our relationship could have been, and pride in myself for maintaining my boundaries. That evening, I received a surprising text from Natalie. "Mom and Dad told me about their meeting with you. They're really shaken up. I don't think anyone has ever spoken to them so honestly before. I'm proud of you, sis." It was the first time Natalie had ever expressed pride in me. The irony wasn't lost on me, but I appreciated the sentiment nonetheless. Over the following weeks, a gradual shift occurred in my family's approach to me. My mother's calls became less about asking for household help and more about genuine inquiries into my life and work. My father sent an email asking to see my artwork, a request that would have been unthinkable 6 months earlier. Natalie and I began to forge a relationship independent of our parents, meeting occasionally for coffee or lunch. During one such meeting, she made a confession that surprised me. "I've always been jealous of you," she admitted, stirring her latte absently. "Of me? Why would you possibly be jealous of me? Because you're so complete in yourself. You know who you are and what you want. I've always just been what Mom and Dad wanted me to be." "You love medicine," I pointed out. "You always have." She shrugged. "Yes, but sometimes I wonder if I love it because I truly do, or because it made Mom so happy. I've never tested it, never considered any other path." The conversation gave me a new perspective on my sister. Perhaps being the favorite had its own constraints, its own lack of freedom. For the first time, I felt something approaching genuine compassion for her position. As spring arrived, bringing new life to the city, I found myself blooming as well. My small collection of artwork at the gallery expanded as pieces sold and were replaced with new ones. I was invited to participate in a group show for emerging artists. My Instagram following grew, leading to commission requests. Most importantly, I was beginning to recognize myself in the mirror again. Not as the faded, diminished version who had sat in her parents' living room, opening a box of cleaning supplies, but as a vibrant, creative woman, with value and purpose beyond serving others. I still had moments of doubt and insecurity. Years of conditioning couldn't be undone in a few months. But each day brought new evidence that I had made the right choice, that I was capable of building a life that honored all parts of who I was. As Christmas approached again, almost a year after my dramatic departure, I received a formal invitation from my parents for Christmas dinner. It was different from previous years, a requested RSVP, rather than an assumed obligation. At the bottom, my mother had handwritten, "We would be honored if you would join us, and please feel free to bring Daniel if you wish." The acknowledgement of my relationship with Daniel, which had evolved from friendship to romance over the months, was significant. They had never shown interest in my personal life before. After careful consideration, I accepted the invitation with conditions clearly stated. I would come as a guest, not as household help. I would stay at a hotel, not in their home. And yes, Daniel would accompany me. To my surprise, they agreed to all conditions without argument. When Daniel and I arrived at my parents' house on Christmas Day, the atmosphere was noticeably different. A catering service handled the meal. The house was decorated beautifully, but with a professional touch rather than my usual handiwork. My father opened the door himself instead of calling for me to attend to guests. "Merry Christmas, Isla," he said with unusual warmth. "And you must be Daniel. Welcome to our home." Natalie greeted me with a genuine hug. "I've missed you," she whispered. "It's not the same without you." Dinner was still elaborate. The conversation still centered somewhat on Natalie's medical school accomplishments, but there were attempts to include me and show interest in my work. My mother asked about my recent gallery show. My father inquired about Daniel's artistic background. After dinner came the gift exchange, the moment I had been both dreading and curious about. Natalie went first, as was tradition, receiving expensive jewelry and designer clothes. But the extravagance was toned down from previous years, and she seemed less smug about the displays. When it was my turn, my mother handed me a carefully wrapped package. "We put a lot of thought into this," she said nervously. Inside was a complete professional artist's kit, the expensive kind I had always admired, but never could justify purchasing for myself. Oil paints in every shade imaginable, brushes of the finest quality, canvas easel palette knives, everything needed to create at a professional level. "I've been following your Instagram," my mother admitted to my shock. "Your work is remarkable. I never allowed myself to see it before." My father cleared his throat. "We were wrong to push you away from art. We should have supported your talents from the beginning." I, I'm sorry, Isla." The apology, simple but sincere, was perhaps the most meaningful gift they could have given me. Not because it erased the past, but because it acknowledged it honestly. Natalie's gift to me was equally thoughtful, a collection of my childhood drawings that she had secretly saved over the years. "I always knew you were talented," she said, even when I didn't say it out loud. In return, I gave them a painting I had created specifically for the occasion. It depicted our family, but not in a traditional portrait style. Instead, it showed four separate individuals connected by delicate threads of light, each standing in their own space, yet linked to the others. It was honest about the distance between us, but also hopeful about the connections that remained possible. My mother's eyes filled with tears when she saw it. "It's beautiful," she whispered. And true. Later that evening, as Daniel and I prepared to leave for our hotel, my father pulled me aside. "I understand now why you left," he said quietly. "I didn't then, but I do now. It took losing you to realize what we had." I nodded, accepting his words, but not rushing to offer false reassurances. The damage of decades couldn't be repaired in one holiday, no matter how improved. But it was a beginning. 6 months after that healing Christmas, I found myself sitting on the balcony of my new apartment, larger and brighter than my first, with a dedicated studio space for my growing artistic career. The summer evening was warm, the city alive with lights and distant sounds of music. Daniel sat beside me, our hands intertwined as we watched the sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. My journey since leaving my parents' house that fateful Christmas day had been one of constant growth and occasional setbacks. The hardest part had been the beginning, those first weeks of doubt and loneliness, when I questioned whether I had made a terrible mistake. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, mourning the family relationship I had always craved, but never experienced. There were moments I nearly called my parents to say I would come back, that I would accept whatever role they assigned me, just to have the comfort of the familiar. But I had persevered through those dark times, often, with just a stubborn determination, not to return to a life that diminished me. Gradually, the painful moments became less frequent, replaced by small victories and discoveries about myself. I learned that I enjoyed spicy food, something my mother had never allowed in her kitchen. I discovered a love for documentary films and independent music. I found that I was capable of fixing minor plumbing issues and assembling furniture without help. Each new revelation about my preferences and abilities was like meeting myself for the first time, uncovering the woman who had been hidden beneath layers of family expectations. My career at the gallery flourished. Jordan promoted me to associate director, giving me more curatorial responsibility, while still valuing my financial expertise. My own artwork gained recognition in the local art scene, with several pieces selected for regional exhibitions. I wasn't famous by any means, but I was making a living doing what I loved, something my parents had insisted was impossible. My relationship with Daniel deepened, from professional respect to friendship to love. He saw me fully valued my creativity, without dismissing my practical skills, and supported my continuing journey of self-discovery without trying to shape or direct it. We moved in together after 6 months, creating a home that reflected both our artistic sensibilities. The most surprising development, however, had been the gradual transformation in my family relationships. After that Christmas visit, my parents had made consistent, if sometimes awkward, efforts to establish a healthier connection with me. There were missteps and old habits that died hard, but there was also genuine attempt at change. My mother enrolled in cooking classes, learning to prepare meals for herself and my father, instead of relying on catering or my assistants. She began sending me articles about art exhibitions and techniques, small acknowledgments of my passion that meant more than grand gestures would have. My father surprised everyone by retiring earlier than planned, saying he wanted more time to appreciate what really matters. He started volunteering at a youth center, mentoring teenagers interested in business and entrepreneurship. The experience seemed to soften something in him, making him more reflective about his own parenting choices. Natalie and I developed a real sisterly relationship for the first time. Without our parents' favoritism creating constant tension, we discovered common interests and complementary differences. She began to stand up to our parents when they occasionally slipped into old patterns, something she had never done before. Mom tried to say your gallery opening wasn't as important as my white coat ceremony, she told me during one of our weekly phone calls. I shut that down immediately, told her both were equally significant achievements in different fields. You should have seen her face. As my relationship with my family evolved, I maintained firm boundaries. I visited on my terms, stayed in hotels rather than their home, and left when interactions became unhealthy. I declined invitations that felt like obligations, and accepted only those that respected my autonomy. Sometimes this caused tension, but more often it created a foundation for more genuine connection. The healing wasn't perfect or complete. There were still moments when an offhand comment would reveal the persistence of old attitudes. There were still times when I felt the familiar pain of being valued less. But these instances became less frequent, less powerful in their ability to diminish me. The most profound change was within myself. I no longer measured my worth by my family's approval. I no longer believed that love had to be earned through service and sacrifice. I understood now that true love made room for all parts of a person, not just the convenient or impressive parts. Sitting on my balcony that summer evening, I reflected on the cleaning supplies that had changed the course of my life. What had been intended as a hurtful joke had become the catalyst for my liberation. By trying to put me in my place, my parents had inadvertently set me free to find my true place in the world. Daniel squeezed my hand gently, bringing me back to the present moment. Penny, for your thoughts. I was just thinking about how sometimes the bravest thing isn't staying and enduring, but having the courage to pack your bags and walk away. In that act of leaving, I found myself my voice, and ironically, the path back to a healthier relationship with my family. Not as their housekeeper, but as their daughter worthy of the same love and respect as anyone else. He nodded, understanding in his eyes. Your courage is what drew me to you from the beginning. The way you rebuilt your life on your own terms. The setting sun cast long shadows across the city, a visual reminder of how far I had come from the darkest moments of my journey. I thought about all the people who might be sitting in their own shadows right now, enduring diminishment, believing they had no choice but to accept the roles assigned to them by others. Have you ever had to walk away from something familiar to find yourself? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. If my journey resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to hear more stories about finding your worth and standing up for yourself. Remember that sometimes the most difficult choices lead to the most beautiful outcomes. Thank you for listening, and may you find the courage to choose yourself when necessary.